presentation, which I'll share with you, and then it will be, we can take some questions and sort of share information. So let me just start. I'll get the thing queued up, and then I will share my screen with you, and then hopefully everything will work really well. So here we go. Okay, so sharing screen. Can everybody? That should. Can everyone see that? Okay. Well, now for the acid test. Right. Okay, so flood incidents, using social media to spread the word. Now, this is sort of inspired by a number of community groups across Sunset that are already using social media. I mean, that might be the case with some people on the call. You may already have set up a Facebook group. This bears out this information for both groups who have, or if you haven't and you just wanted to sort of find out the basics. So okay, so go on to the so why use social media? Okay, it's really, in this day and age, it's the most effective way of reaching lots of people quickly. It really is a useful tool in terms of that. Why is that? Because it's sort of plugged into everything, really. It's watched by the media, it's watched by people like us, communications officers, and also police and other emergency services. So there's an awareness there. It's on everyone's radar. And one post with an established group can potentially reach thousands of people very quickly. And with a striking, informative post, so if you get some good images, and I'm not making light of a difficult situation, but images are important. Obviously after you've done the basic things like call 101 and ensure everyone's safe, but images are important. They're eye-catching, and if you can get that together and get it on your Facebook group, you're going to reach media outlets very quickly, like these people. Okay, now love them or hate them, Somerset Live are a really good way of getting your flood event out into the public, increasing public awareness. They have extremely good engagement. They have their own social media groups as well. So if you want to reach people quickly and in numbers, then you're talking to people within your own community, but you're also thinking about road users and people who are trying to come through. You're trying to warn people. You will very quickly reach them with the sort of backing of people like Somerset Live or the Somerset County Gazette. Somerset Live will run live blogs if there is flooding in the county or any other extreme weather event. And you'll be contacted directly, possibly by them, and asked for images. And it's all very helpful. We shouldn't shy away from it. They're helping to do our job for us. So we welcome that interest, as long as it's reported responsibly, and actually it usually is in these sorts of circumstances. So you'll also, it's another way of reaching all the key agencies involved. And sorry, I've really sorry, I haven't got the Environment Agency in here, but they should be. Yeah, let's move quickly on from that. Don't take offense, please. But of course, okay, I need to stress that social media is great, it's a fantastic tool, but obviously we need to reiterate that the first thing that people in the community need to do as soon as they become aware of a flood event is to call 101, get it logged, and that in turn will be logged with us. So Facebook or Twitter? Okay. Generally speaking, and this is only our opinion, but this is based on our experience, Facebook is a better tool in this instance for the sort of thing that we're talking about. Okay, Facebook tends to work best because and don't take this the wrong way, but it's more popular with an older demographic. Okay, it's become that way in recent years. It just lends itself to an older demographic because of the way that it's set up. Going back a few years, it used to be at the beginning, say 20, back in the early 2000s, it was very much a young sort of 20s sort of person's thing, but it's been rapidly taken over by irritating older people like me, and the reason for that is it lends itself so well to sort of having a very local community focused group. So you've got loads of groups around the country like this. This is from where I used to live, Herefordshire Remembered. I mean, there's one in Somerset. There's one for Shard, I think, and there's one for there's communities across the country have got these. It's really easy to set these up, and that leads us on to the sort of setting up a flood group. That's Yeovil Flood Watch, which folks will be familiar with, and that was set up about 5 years ago. We established at the outset. Now got 8,500 members nearly. Really useful group for covering emergencies, but also other community bits and bobs that are going on. I mean, Twitter is great, but it's a very fast moving medium, and Facebook tends to make it easier to sort of just find posts, and they tend to sit there on the page or on your group for longer. They tend to be easier to find, which is kind of what you want really if you're flagging a flood event. Other key features Facebook offers: it's easy to comment and get involved. So this is a collapsed drain in Taunton. So we shared that on a Taunton community group. But I won't share the comments because I can't share the comments because obviously for GDPR reasons. I mean obviously they're publicly published, but I can't republish them because of people's faces and names and what have you. But it generated a few comments. People were able to ask questions. We were able to respond. How long is it going on, and we can importantly say, well, it's not us. Let's stress this is Wessex Water. So if you want to if you want to complain, no, I mean this is an event. It's nobody's fault, but it's just about the road has to be closed. This is why it's closed, and straight away you're reaching many thousands of people with that. You don't need to worry about techie language or hashtags. You can just say it like it is, and you've got a lot of space, so you don't need to sort of be au fait with all the stuff that you tend to use on Twitter. You can just talk in normal speak if you like. Just about anyone can get their head around using Facebook. There's no IT knowledge needed. Again, just to reiterate the demographic, there's plenty of people who grew up, in my era. I mean, the computers in my, computers didn't come into play really when I was a kid. And they eventually did when it was a sort of Sinclair or Dragon, and it was there was nothing like social media. So social media came into being for me when I was already quite mature, and there's many people of my parents' age in their sort of 80s and 70s who are on Facebook now and keeping in touch with their grandkids and family across the world. So and there's it's a very simple tool to use, and it's free, of course, although I'm sure everyone knows that. How do I start? If you don't have one, you do need to join Facebook. And you do this just by creating your own account. It's really quick and simple. There's no onus on sharing your life or your private information with anyone. You can use this if you want to set up a flood warning group. You can use this purely as a sort of admin account, if you like, to set up the group. You don't need to, there's no obligation to start sharing pictures of you sunning yourself in Portugal or walking in Scotland. You don't need to do those things. You don't need to post a single thing, really. I think basically you just set up your account. You need an email and maybe a phone number and some basic details. Once you've done that, you can then you get the option of setting up a special interest page or group, and that is what we're talking about basically. So you'll have this option within your page. I will be doing a brief demonstration in a minute. So within your page, you'll get this option of create a new group, and it's a simple form, and it's as simple as that. You know, you can just go in and create a group. You can add an image that sort of sums up the group, an image of the village or the river or whatever it is you know you wanted to include on there. For flood alerts, we say a page or a group. For flood alerts, a group is best, we feel, because with a group, you can sort of control who is a member and who can post and do stuff on it, if you like. With a page, any old person can come along and sort of join in, and most people are very, it's self-policing Facebook most of the time, but you do get some idiots, and you don't want it hijacked by somebody who's got a specific, not necessarily an idiot, but somebody who's impassioned about one particular cause or issue. You don't want it. This is the idea of this is it's an important community tool, if you like. So as the admin, you will be able to set up a very simple form. I think that's right, isn't it, Jacob? And you will just be able to kind of set some simple questions when someone presses the join button once your group's up and running. So it'll just, that you'll just need them to say, yes, I'm Joan, I live at number 27 in the village, and I'm very interested in being part of the group because I'd like to be aware of it, and I'd also like to chip in and provide information if I can.
Yeah.
So
and you can be very you can request as much information as possible. I've just applied for a visa, and they asked for less information than my village community group. So you can really pick out the bad apples if necessary.
Yeah. So if you've got somebody who in the village who you don't want to get involved, you can carefully craft your questions. But yeah, but there we are. So it's a group is the best way, we think, and we're just going to give you a quick demonstration. Hopefully this will work. Right, so it's just loading up. Right, here we go. Hopefully I can go back to the slideshow after, but has that gone blank for everybody? Is anything happening?
So it's just showing manage page at the moment. Yeah. So okay. Now you've come up to Travel Somerset page.
Okay, so this is our Facebook. So this is not a group, but this is our Facebook page. But the process is, you know, I just wanted to talk through. So if you can imagine, this is your group. It looks pretty much. It will look pretty much the same, in that you just simply have a button there, and it's as simple as you know, you're the administrator. You'll have a menu here. You'll have various sort of icons at the top. You'll have a home page, and you'll have some information here, and you can go into settings, I think. So you will be able to set up I mean, please don't worry. This is a whistle stop tour, so you'll be able to get our details after. And if you do want to do something like set up a group, just drop us a line, and we'll have a proper, you know, conversation about it, and sort of support you through it. You don't need to remember all this now, but you kind of go into settings and you can set up an administrator. So I will cover that in a second, but you'll want about 2 or 3 of you or 4 of you, really as many people who are willing to keep this thing running as possible. So if you've got 4 or 5 people in the community or in the village who are up for it and can sort of monitor it, then you've got more chance really of having an effective tool for raising the alarm, or putting flood alerts on when events happen. So okay, so, and it's as simple as when you have your page or your group running, you just literally you just create a post. So something's happened. We've got surface water, or oh, it would throw that up, wouldn't it? So I'm just gonna I'm gonna, yeah, just bypass that. Okay, so it kind of will look like this. And when it comes, you'll just literally have a box. You just write in here. It's, you know, surface water on the high street. Please be careful. Road users passing through, or you know, water levels are rising. Here's a picture of the river as it is now, or you know, whatever it is you want to put on there. Warning, you know, this route is impassable. However you want to phrase it, just pop it in there, put a picture in there. Once your group becomes established, it will be a sort of go-to place for people like Somerset Live, and hopefully people like us as well. And I'm just gonna, yeah, so I'm just gonna kill that and kill that. So it's that simple, really. You can embellish your group by just putting a picture at the top. You can sort of, you know, put this flag of Somerset, or your local community emblem if you want to. You don't have to do that. You'll get information about how many people you're reaching, and the sort of engagement you're getting on the page, how many people are liking it, and you know, you obviously you'll keep track of how many people are joining, because you'll be administrating it. Yeah, as you go through, you will sort of build up a bank of images and stuff. Again, you know, you'll probably get approached by media outlets to sort of say, oh, you've got some really good images, can we use those? You can ask them to credit you. You don't have to let them use it, but if, again, in the interest of spreading the word, I think it's a good thing. You know, if it's a live incident, then you know, I think that's really helpful. So that's pretty much, you know, that's pretty much a quick run around the page. And what I'm going to do now is try and just get back to my presentation. Here I am. There we are. And some helpful hints and info. So as I said, make sure you got 3 or more administrators, or you know, who are up for being involved, and you know, and by administrators I mean, so a person sets up the group, okay, and then you can give people rights. You can sort of alter the permissions. You can give them some permissions to do some things, or you can just make them full-on sort of editors who can do everything as that you can do. And they need to be on Facebook as well. That's important. Okay. But again, let me stress, if you have somebody that's willing to do it, but they say, well, I don't want my kind of people to sort of come to me directly. That I think, Jacob, with a group, I think there is a possibility that could happen, isn't it? So people probably need to be prepared for to be direct message. I mean, people can't access your page, can they?
You can change your privacy settings to not receive direct messages to your actual inbox, but they will go to an other section,
Okay.
and you need to go to that section in order to actually to see them. But if you don't, they could go missing or not seen for months or years if you don't look at it. But yeah, you can just forward them or change your settings that way.
I think it's important to remember that you know, if you're happy to receive direct message, it's likely that it will be from either from sort of an agency, less likely to be an agency, more likely to be from a media outlet. And the chances are it will be somebody sort of just saying, we've seen this and we'd really like to talk to you, or we'd like some information, or can we use your pictures? It will be that sort of thing. So but we can talk through that if you're setting something up and you want to talk through just ensuring that there is some privacy for administrators when they're involved in it. Then we're happy to do that. I mean, most people are fairly okay with this sort of thing. I mean, after all, if they're on Facebook and they post stuff, they're generally kind of happy to share with their friends, and the information that they share is fairly limited on their own page. They have it set up so it's really only people they know that can see all their own stuff. All that somebody from outside can see would be their basic details, and their name and you know, where they're from, sort of thing. Whatever it is that they choose, basically, in terms of, as Jacob said, their settings. So the good thing about a group, as I said, people I'm reiterating, but people have to request to join and comment, so you can make sure they're appropriate, i.e., for a start, they live locally. And make sure you keep the group alive by regularly putting bits of info or images on to encourage interaction and ensure people know it's there. So Facebook will respond positively if you sort of reasonably regularly do things. So it's probably worth thinking about what you can do in the interim period, in those months when it's very quiet. And other groups, you know, as we've spoken about, tend to add some bits of community information on there, or unfortunately and really shockingly, Chard ended up having an extreme flood weather event in the middle of June. So I don't think they have a flood group, but they have a local community page there. So, but I mean, if you were in a situation where you've got one of these things, I guess what I'm saying is, and we've spoken at the beginning about global warming and climate change, I think we can all expect to see those sorts of incidents more often, and at, if you like, unexpected in quotes times of the year. So we cannot be complacent and assume that this is just an autumn winter event. It can happen really at any point in the year, and that's the point of it. But yeah, it's just about, when you have a social media platform, it's about being cute, really, and just sort of saying, okay, it's very hot, it's very dry, we're in the middle of a drought, but let's take the opportunity to sort of just post some summer pictures or something, or just say, you know, we've got we've got a fete, or we've got some community events going on. There's no reason why you can't use the flood awareness group for things like that, because I think it's basically a community group, and it can evolve and, you know, change as time goes on and as it develops. I'm going to put a sock in it there now, and just sort of open the floor to any questions. So let me stop sharing, because that is now complete, and that has been recorded. So if you know, you can have that. If you want the actual presentation itself, you're welcome to have it. We can send that round as well. So yeah, thank you. Any question?
Thank you, Andy. That was really, really interesting and useful. So just in the chat box, so I think Vanessa sort of flagged up that the Wessex area of the Environment Agency also has its own Facebook page. So it'd be really good for any flood groups or community groups to be following that one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good point. In fact, we should be as well. Phil?
Yeah, a bit of a sort of a muse, really. At the moment, we've got a Misterton residence group, and I do use it to communicate on. I'm just trying to think whether or not it's worth setting up our own flood group so that you don't get all the other things on there, or whether or not to keep using the one that people are probably familiar with. I'm just trying to think which would be the better option. Any thoughts?
What do you think, Jacob?
Well, there's kind of, I suppose, whatever, if you did set up a flood group specifically, you will always be able to share those posts within the actual community page. If they're of high alert, for example, if you want to draw attention to them. But I don't see why it wouldn't be okay to post that into the village group if that's such a, trying to think of what we do as a village ourselves. No, I think you either way, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think both ways fits well.
Okay.
It's all about really what the users would prefer as well. Would they prefer to be inundated over a spell of a few days with posts, or would they prefer there to be one single place where they can go to? I think it's kind of what people might prefer. Probably, if I was to want to look up something specific, I would go to the flood page rather than the community page. So that might be, you know, a better way to go. But I don't think there's a right or wrong way.
Thank you. Well, we'll give it some thought and decide what we're going to do in due course.
Vanessa?
I was just going to say that locally here, I mean, the Nextdoor app, I don't know if you've all heard of that or using it, but the Nextdoor app seems to be getting more and more popular. And for very localized areas, it's quite good to get news out. It seems to me that where I live, people use it an awful lot. I mean, it's for everything. It is for everything, but it gets messages out. People seem to look at it and comment. So it is an add-on, really, not instead of Facebook for a minute. But I think, you know, it's always, you can always put a link in there to the Facebook page. Quite useful, just to capture even more people again.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, we it's becoming more and more prominent, and I mean, they're just springing up everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's probably another presentation, Dawn, but which we could maybe return to at some point. Okay. But actually, Phil, I'm just wondering, how many people are there in your group, just out of interest, in the Misterton community group?
How do you mean, Andy? Do you mean
How many members have you got, and do you know sort of roughly what the reach is, or how many people you tend to reach with information?
Well, our team is a core of about 6 people. We have what we call the extended Misterton resilience team, which is about 40 people, who the sort of people who stepped forward when we wanted masks making during the COVID pandemic. And then I'm not sure how many people actually use the current Misterton Residents Facebook page, but we have the magazine, which goes to about 500 homes, and we post in that or put articles in that every month. So it's sort of, that's the sort of number, 500 homes, a couple of thousand plus people.
Okay, yeah, no, that's pretty healthy, isn't it? Yeah, no, thank you.
Lisa.
Lisa.
Hi, Phil, I was just thinking, often what we suggest to flood warden groups is that they actually set up a WhatsApp group just for the core group, because it's a really, really quick and easy way of checking in with each other, sharing information, setting up activation, and also sharing pictures as well. So
Lovely.
during an incident, when things are going on or you want to activate each other, it just keeps it as a really nice, clear, concise way of messaging with each other. And then it's always easy to forward on messages as well, and pictures.
Thank you. Yes, it's a good idea. I use WhatsApp for other purposes. So yeah, I can imagine that being very much the case.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. That is a really really important point there, actually, because that can help to, that can sort of help coordinate a very quick response and feed into your page, whether it be Facebook or indeed Nextdoor, which we probably haven't got time to go into, but it's a really good point, Vanessa, which is worth returning to at some point. But I would say, if you haven't had a look at Nextdoor, look it up. You'll find. Expect there's probably one up your way, Phil. Probably somebody's probably done it. If they haven't already, I expect they will soon. So.
Yeah, that's interesting, because first I've really heard of it, but I'll do a bit of investigation to see what we can find.
Yeah, I mean, they're like mushrooms. They pop up everywhere. I mean, and it's very, very hyper local. So, for instance, I live in Glastonbury, but there are ones for the different areas of even in Glastonbury. So and for Glastonbury, we've got several groups with different interest groups. Well, we don't have a flood alert group, but we have all kinds of interesting groups, as you can imagine, I'm sure. But also, as I say, they tend to be sort of separated literally into neighborhoods. Some of them, it's just, so it is very, very hyper local, and it's really growing at a rate of knots.
Thanks for the ideas.
Lisa? Sorry, is that a legacy hand, Lisa, or did you? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, apologies. That's a legacy ham. I've just put in the address for Nextdoor online.
Thank you.
You can download the app, or you can access it on your computer or tablet as well.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any more questions or comments? Okay, lovely. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Andy, for a really interesting presentation, and for your support with that as well, Jacob. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for your input. It's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very interesting. Good stuff.